The fluorescent lights hummed their familiar tune as Marcus Williams pushed his cleaning cart down the marble corridor of Westfield High School. His hands, roughened by years of honest work, gripped the mop handle with the same quiet dignity he brought to everything he did. At 42, Marcus had learned that respect wasn't given freely to men who clean floors for a living. But he'd also learned something more important, that his daughter Sarah's smile when he picked her up from her own school each day was worth more than all the respect in the world. What Marcus didn't know, as he began his evening shift that Tuesday in October, was that in less than 3 hours, the very people who'd looked through him like glass for 5 years would finally see him, really see him. And nothing would ever be quite the same again. If stories like this remind you why kindness matters and why we should never judge a book by its cover, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. These real-life moments of humanity deserve to be shared, and your support helps us bring more of them to light. Marcus had worked at Westfield High for 5 years, always the evening shift, always invisible. Teachers rushed past him discussing lesson plans. Students barely glanced his way, stepping around his yellow caution signs without a second thought. He'd grown accustomed to it, the invisibility that came with being the janitor. But there was one person who made it worse, Victoria Ashford, the school's assistant principal. Victoria carried herself with the sharp efficiency of someone who'd clawed her way up from a teaching position and wasn't about to let anyone forget her authority. Her heels clicked against the floors Marcus had just cleaned, and she had a particular way of looking at him, or rather, through him, that made him feel about 2 inches tall. The third-floor bathroom still has a soap dispenser issue, she'd say without greeting, without acknowledging him. As a person, just orders, delivered to the help. Last week, she'd interrupted him during his lunch break. Marcus had been sitting in the small janitor's office, FaceTiming with Sarah, helping her with her math homework. At 8 years old, his daughter was struggling with fractions, and Marcus was using slices of his sandwich to demonstrate. "Excuse me," Victoria had said, not bothering to knock. "The cafeteria needs immediate attention. There's been a spill." Marcus had looked up, his sandwich midair. "Ma'am, I'm on my break for another 15 minutes. I'll get to it right after." "I don't think you understand how this works," Victoria had cut him off, her voice ice cold. "You're just a janitor. When I need something cleaned, you clean it. That's what we pay you for." The words had hung in the air like smoke. Just a janitor. Sarah had heard it through the phone, her little face crumpling with confusion and hurt for her daddy. Marcus had swallowed his pride, told Sarah he'd call her back, and cleaned up the spill. He needed this job. Sarah needed health insurance, needed food, needed a roof over her head. After her mother had left 3 years ago, unable to handle the embarrassment of being married to a janitor, Marcus had become both parents. His pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. But tonight was different. Marcus was cleaning the administrative wing when he heard raised voices coming from the main office. He recognized Victoria's voice immediately, high-pitched, panicked, completely unlike her usual controlled tone. "I don't care what it takes, find someone who can fix this. The entire system is down. Every student record, every grade, everything for the accreditation review tomorrow is locked in there." Marcus paused, his curiosity getting the better of him. He'd learned long ago that janitors heard everything. People talked freely around them as if they were furniture. He peeked around the corner. Victoria stood in front of the main office computer. System. Her face flushed, her perfectly styled hair beginning to come undone. Principal Henderson stood beside her, looking equally distressed. 2 IT technicians Marcus had never seen before were packing up their equipment. "We can't help you," one of them said apologetically. "This is a custom security system from 2010. The company went out of business. Without the administrator password, we can't override it. You're looking at a complete system replacement, and that'll take weeks." "We don't have weeks," Victoria's voice cracked. "The state accreditation team arrives at 8 a.m. tomorrow. If we can't show them our records, our student data, our compliance documentation, we could lose our accreditation. Do you understand what that means? This school could be shut down. Teachers lose jobs. Students get displaced. Principal Henderson put a hand on her shoulder. Victoria, we've tried everything. Maybe we can call the state, ask for an extension. They've already extended us twice, Victoria said, sinking into a chair. For the first time since Marcus had known her, she looked small, vulnerable, human. This is my fault. I should have migrated the data to the new system months ago, but I kept putting it off. I thought we had time. Marcus stood in the hallway, his mop forgotten. His mind was racing. He'd worked with computer systems before. Years ago, before Sarah was born, he'd been a network technician for a small company. But when the company downsized and he lost his job, he'd taken whatever work he could find. Cleaning paid the bills. It was steady, reliable. He'd left that other life behind. But that old security system they were talking about, he knew it. He'd installed dozens of them back in the day. Marcus took a deep breath. He could walk away. Let Victoria stew in her own problem. She'd never shown him an ounce of kindness or respect. Just a janitor, she'd said. Those words still stung. But then he thought about Sarah, about the teachers who'd been kind to him over the years, about the students who'd occasionally said thank you when he held a door open. This wasn't about Victoria. This was about hundreds of kids who deserved better. He stepped into the office. "Excuse me." Everyone turned. Victoria looked at him with barely concealed irritation. "Not now. We're dealing with a crisis." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I heard. And I think I can help." Victoria let out a harsh laugh. "Unless you have a magic password, I don't think—" "The Genesis Security Pro 2000 system," Marcus interrupted. "That's what you're running, right?" I saw the logo on the login screen. The IT technicians looked at him with surprise. Principal Henderson frowned. "How did you—" "I used to install these systems," Marcus said. "Before I worked here. They have a backdoor recovery protocol. It's complicated, but if you haven't changed the default master settings, I might be able to bypass the password." Victoria stared at him. "You're telling me you're a computer technician?" "Was," Marcus corrected. "A long time ago. But I remember these systems. They were my specialty." There was a long silence. Marcus watched Victoria's face cycle through emotions. Disbelief, suspicion, and finally desperate hope. "Fine," she said. "Try whatever you want. We've got nothing to lose at this point." Marcus approached the computer. His fingers felt clumsy on the keyboard at first. It had been years since he'd done this kind of work. But muscle memory kicked in. He navigated to the system's BIOS, found the recovery partition, and began entering the complex sequence of commands he'd memorized over a decade ago. 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Then 40. Marcus was sweating now, his janitor's uniform sticking to his back. He could feel everyone watching him. "There," he finally said. "I'm in the recovery mode. Now I just need to reset the administrative credentials without wiping the data." This is the tricky part. His fingers flew across the keyboard. He created a new administrator account, carefully preserved the existing database structure, and initiated a system verification. The screen flickered. For one heart-stopping moment, everything went black. Then the login screen appeared, now accepting the new credentials Marcus had created. "Try it," he said to Victoria, stepping back. She moved to the computer with shaking hands, entered the new password, and gasped as the system opened. Files appeared. Student records, grade databases, every piece of documentation they needed for tomorrow's review. "It's all here," she whispered. "Everything. You did it." Principal Henderson clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "Marcus, I don't know what to say. You just saved this school." Marcus shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable with the attention. "Just glad I could help. I should get back to my cleaning." "Wait." Victoria's voice stopped him at the door. He turned to see her standing, her eyes glistening with tears. "I owe you an apology. What I said last week, what I've said, how I've treated you, there's no excuse for it. You're not just anything. You're a skilled professional who's been working here for years, and I never once took the time to see you as a person. I'm sorry." Marcus felt something tight in his chest loosen. "Thank you," he said simply, "That means a lot." "No thank you," she replied. "You had every reason to walk away and let me fail, but you didn't. That says everything about your character and nothing good about mine." The next morning, Principal Henderson called an assembly. In front of the entire school, he told the story of what had happened, crediting Marcus with saving Westfield High. The students erupted in applause. Teachers Marcus had barely spoken to came up to shake his hand, to thank him, to finally see him. But the real change came gradually, in smaller moments. Victoria started greeting him every morning, asking about Sarah, treating him with genuine respect. Students began stopping to talk to him, curious about his background, his life. The invisible man became visible. 3 months later, Principal Henderson called Marcus into his office and offered him a position as the school's IT coordinator, a job that paid twice his janitor salary and came with benefits that would change everything for Sarah. Marcus accepted, but he made one request. He'd still help out with cleaning sometimes, especially in the evenings, because he'd learned that honest work was nothing to be ashamed of, and he wanted to remember where he'd come from. On his last day officially as a janitor, Marcus found a handwritten note taped to his cart. It was from Victoria. "Thank you for teaching me that a person's job title tells you nothing about their worth. You are, and always were, so much more than your uniform. With gratitude and respect, Victoria." Marcus folded the note carefully and put it in his wallet, right next to a picture of Sarah. That night, when he picked up his daughter from school in the new car he'd been able to afford, she asked him why he was smiling so big. "Because, sweetheart," he said, "I learned something important. People can change, and sometimes the hardest problems get solved not by the people with the fanciest titles, but by the people willing to help, no matter what." Sarah hugged him tight. "You're the smartest daddy in the whole world." Marcus laughed, his heart full. "No, baby. I'm just a daddy who loves you and tries to do the right thing. That's all any of us can be." And as they drove home together, Marcus thought about how a single moment of choosing kindness over pride had changed everything, not just for him, but for everyone involved. He'd been invisible for so long, but now he understood. He'd never really been invisible at all. He'd just been waiting for the moment when the world was ready to see him.